Thanks everyone. So I'm going to get started with the session. Hopefully this will go through. So the session is until 11:50 this morning. I'm going to be kind of gathering some information and just things about everyone who's here, and then talking about the events that we ran. So we ran some joint events between all the 4 local universities, with Josh, who's in the session as well, and then we'll just be kind of going through different ideas and basically the lessons that we learned so far from running these online events, and I'll give everyone an opportunity to share your experience as well, so hopefully we can have kind of quite a collaborative session, and have some kind of space for everyone to share their thoughts as well. So these are all the topics that we're going to discuss. The first thing is that I'd like to find out a bit more about you. So if I can ask everyone to go to menti.com, so either just open that in a different window, or you can also go there on your phone. And the code for the Menti is 2822571. I'll leave that up for a second, and then I'm going to hopefully open the Menti page so people can see it. And if anyone's having any problem getting to that, then just let us know in the chat. All right, great. So looking at those results coming in. I'm sorry if it looks a bit strange if I'm kind of looking up and down. I've got one screen up here and one screen down here. Yeah, the number is here. So the number's in the chat if anyone wants it. So it looks like everyone so far is either from a university or higher education institution or a students' union. We're having like one person at a time going into each one, so it's pretty well balanced. Myself, I'm from the university, UE Bristol. We're part of the careers team, so the volunteering team is within careers, but we also have kind of colleagues in the students' union. All right, great, that's interesting. Thanks everyone. I'm going to go on to the next, hopefully, page. So this is something that I'm interested in finding out. How many online events have you run since October? So this would be kind of maybe information events, or like a small fair or Q&A, rather than like meetings or workshops or things like that. Someone said more than one per week, so I've obviously been very busy. 2 people already said more than one a week. It's looking like 1 to 5 in total is the most popular. I would say that's I was going to say that's what we've done, although the events which I'm going to talk about in a minute, we actually ended up running 12 of them, but that was as a team of 4 institutions, so maybe 3 total really. Great, that's interesting to know. 2 people have said more than one a week. I'm going to go on to the next slide now. So yeah, this one, we're all sort of colleagues here, so you can be honest here. How do you feel about running online events? I guess it can be different for me depending on what the content is, what it's supposed to be about. Oops. Hopefully people will be able to use the slider. The least confident answer, as I expected, is I feel like I have the time and resources to run valuable events. Again, I think that's something that we're all kind of struggling with at the moment, whether it's resources available from our organisations or kind of personal time and resources available. So about middling for a lot of people. Adapting real world sessions to online sessions, I guess that was something that we all kind of had to struggle to do very quickly at the beginning of the pandemic, and kind of realize how we could rather than just try to do it in exactly the same way, kind of adapt it into our online sessions into something with their own value, and kind of use the value of them as well. I mean, I've certainly learned to use a lot more technology than I needed to at the beginning of the year, so I guess that's a plus. All right, that's interesting, and people feeling confident with the technology, pretty confident, which is pretty good. Okay, great. So that's nice to know. Thanks everyone for answering those things. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, hopefully. There we go. And tell you about our sessions. So what I'm kind of basing the experience for this session on is mostly a series of events that were run between UWE Bristol, University of Bristol, University of Bath, and Bath Spa University. And we ran 12 sessions, which were 50 minutes long, which generally had 2 organisations at each one, who would talk about their organisation, and then there was a Q&A for students. So the main idea was for recruiting student volunteers, but also for people to kind of share about their organisation. So this image is from one that was about organisations working with refugees and asylum seekers, as me and a member of staff from Bristol Students' Union on the left, and then a couple of student volunteers on the right who did amazing presentations in that one. So we ran these, we kind of spread them out and ran them twice weekly over 6 weeks of the autumn term of last year. So to kind of go into the different parts, and this one, like to invite people to put in the chat or add anything if there's any other things that you can think of. But the first thing, and it was something that was kind of difficult to do right at the beginning because we didn't know what was going to come up, was kind of setting the different roles. It's something that kind of came together as we went through the sessions, really. But we kind of came out with ideally 3 roles which are done by 3 different people. Obviously, a lot of people have said that the main thing that they struggle with is the time and resources to run online sessions. So, this is an ideal. But these are the kind of things that we found were really good to be covered. So to have a host who's kind of focused on keeping the session going, asking participants questions, interviewing speakers if you have separate speakers, and kind of keeping to time, sort of chairing the event, really. And then we had a technical support that Josh kindly did for us. We used Microsoft Teams. So that person could manage the recording. It was really helpful to have someone separate to support people with joining, because we did find that it's quite difficult when you're the host to be keeping an eye on all the different things, people joining, any polls you've got going on, the chat, and kind of talking to students as they're coming in, and then also watch out for your emails if you're thinking one of your presenters hasn't turned up or you don't know whether they can get in. So to have someone who's kind of specifically doing that was really helpful. And then obviously they help with presentations and screen sharing, and muting and unmuting people. So it's really useful to kind of think about that in advance and what powers you need each person to have, because in a lot of different programs, the different powers that you have kind of will depend on whether you're a moderator, administrator, and you need to think about who needs to be able to do which things. Charlotte's just posted in the chat there one of the talks from our joint event series. If people would like to see those are on Bath Spa's web pages. If people would like to kind of see how they went, and then the final role was monitoring the chat. So again, you know, this is something that could be done by the technical support person or by the host. You know, you could do all three at the same time, although that can be very tricky. So posting links and resources as we went through, that was quite useful for us because we could post links to other roles. Maybe sometimes we'd have someone speaking who would say, you know, you need to be studying this particular thing to volunteer in this role, or you need this skill, and we'd be able to say, you know, if you're not studying that, then maybe you'd be interested in this role. So, and then collecting questions from students, watching out for urgent technical issues, which Charlotte's doing for me at the moment. Taking attendance is a useful thing for that person to be able to do as well. Sometimes some programs will only let you kind of take, you know, kind of see as people are coming in and out. And then posting polls if that's something that you want to do as well. I don't know if anyone has anything else that they thought. I've tried to be kind of as comprehensive as possible on this. If anyone's found that you need anything else while you're going along, everyone's putting anything in the chat. So hopefully that will be a useful list for people, and when we share this afterwards, then you know, that will be the kind of comprehensive list, and people can kind of check through and think, do I need someone to do that? Who's going to be able to do that? And also it's good to think about, obviously, you know, if you have students or participants who might be able to do some of these roles. I think monitoring the chat and hosting can be great roles for students, and technical support as well. We're all going to need to be able to support these programs to some extent in the future. So these might be great roles for students as well. All right, great. The next part is platform choice. Obviously, this was something that was, you know, that we had to think carefully about, because we were working as a team from different institutions. We all already had our platforms that we'd used more or less, or that our institutions were encouraging us to use or not encouraging us to use. And so we needed to kind of think about what was going to be best for us all as a group. And these are the kind of, you know, everyone will, I think, already have their favourite platforms, the ones that they're most familiar with. But these were the kind of things that we realised that it'd be helpful to consider. So as I said, we ended up using Microsoft Teams. I'd be happy to kind of chat to anyone about kind of how that went in more detail if you'd like to. But in general, these are the things that we found that we needed to look at. So and again, you know, if anyone can think of anything else that they found important, do feel free to pop that in the chat, and I can add things to the PowerPoints as well. So the first one being association. Do you want your students or your audience to associate the session that you're doing with their academic work? And if so, you know, you might want to use the same program. So for us, that would be Blackboard. So I imagine a lot of people, it might be the same. Ease of access and sign up. So because we had 4 different universities, and then we would have, we had 12 contributors from 12 different organizations. We needed to think about whether you can use this platform if you're not signed up. Sometimes people won't want to make an account for lots of different reasons, or won't use a particular type of media. So that might be something that you want to look at. And that's something that can be the case with social media. On one side, it's useful as often, you know, you'll find a lot of people will already have the media that you're using, so say Instagram Live or something like that, but is it a big decision for someone to sign up for that, and is it going to present, you know, a barrier if they don't have that program, or they don't use that kind of media? Are they just going to, you know, not attend the session or not be able to access it? I'm going to talk a bit more about waiting rooms later when I'm talking about the beginning of the session, but does it have a waiting room? Do you need one? How many administrators you can have, or how many presenters and speakers is useful. We did look into using broadcasting platforms like YouTube Live, and another one which I've completely forgotten the name of, but will come to me in a second. But those kind of more broadcasting type platforms will normally only let you have one presenter, or I think Instagram will let you have two. What features it has, so do you want to use polls, do you want to use a whiteboard, things like that, and also how accessible it is. So this was quite an important one for us, and the useful thing about Teams is that it has an automatic live captioning, which actually works quite well. So that was something that we used for that. Josh has popped in the chat that he's very happy to advise on tech support. Josh did all our tech support for these sessions, so he'd be a great person to speak to about that. He's put his email address in the chat if anyone would like it, and said that Bath and Bath Spa are going to replicate it and trialing it on Zoom, which is great. Great. The next thing that we needed to think about was obviously the topics that we had, how flexible we could be with that, and booking. So I think this was probably one of the bigger lessons that we learned. We hoped that the events would kind of build momentum as they went along, and we would get more and more students at each one when students who'd attended previous ones would come back, and they would bring more students in. But it turns out, and understandably, because students and all of us have so many digital demands on our time at the moment, that they do need to be quite choosy about what they're spending their time on, and the events were kind of 40 to 50 minutes. So it's quite a substantial amount of time. Obviously they didn't need to be there for the whole time, but that's how they'd get all the information. So we found that it didn't really gather momentum, and what was happening was that students were coming to particular events that were really of interest to them, which was great as well, because it meant that the people that did attend were you know, really engaged with the session, had lots of questions. But that's probably something that we would change, and now knowing that, I would say that it's really important to make a really clear timetable. So rather than just saying, oh, just join us every Tuesday and Thursday, make it really clear what the session is going to be about, who's going to be there, give lots of information about why they should come to this particular session, what's going to happen, and what the value of it is going to be. Or, you know, obviously it depends on what you're running and who your audience are. It might be that you know, you'd like to make a series of really short sessions, like 10 minutes a day, and that might be something that kind of gathers more momentum, as you know, people might feel like they can spare 5 or 10 minutes a day, but they're not going to spare, you know, 12 50-minute sessions. So that was something that was quite important. Try and move my PowerPoint very slightly. Oops. There we go. If anyone's wondering how I'm running this, this was something that I've just discovered, that you can share a portion of your screen on Zoom. This might be like old news to everyone, but I find that really helpful, because it actually means that I've got PowerPoint in edit view, so I can add things to the PowerPoint if I want to, or if I've made mistakes, which sometimes I do with spelling errors. Okay. The next thing being preparing your speakers. So again, you know, I'm sure this is a kind of a big part of everyone's role with organising in-person events as well as online events. So I don't know if anyone's got anything that they would like to add to this, which they, you know, kind of have on their checklist for preparing speakers. I think it's easy for us to forget, and you know, from the poll I could see that I think everyone in the session is from either a students' union or a university or HE. Oh, someone have a question there, or someone be unmuted? I don't know. I think that was accidental. I think it's easy for us to forget that speakers that we have and organisations who we speak to might be kind of speaking to a group of students for the first time, or knowingly a group of students for the first time. And you know, there's better and worse ways to engage with students, and that's something that obviously we can you know, kind of help with. So the kind of top tips that we shared were arriving early or arranging beforehand to test the technology and kind of making that available, because often Zoom's a good one that a lot of people have used before, but Teams maybe not so much. If they, you know, they're not using Microsoft at their work, it might be quite new to them. So it's, you know, great to kind of have time to test that. Bringing a current volunteer, we found that, and the photo that I showed you actually was where there were 2 volunteers in that one, and that was such an engaging session. They were both students, and we found that the participants asked them a lot more questions. I think because, you know, you just kind of feel a bit more that you have something in common with the student, and maybe they felt they could be a bit more honest with you know, ask questions like how do you fit this in with your time, maybe things that they'd be a bit nervous to ask an organisation directly for kind of fear of looking like maybe they're not committed or things like that. So you know, and obviously as we all I think find, you know, volunteers are generally, you know, the most enthusiastic advocates. Kathy, that's a really good point in the chat. Yeah, that a case study is also great. You know, a quote from a volunteer is just such an engaging thing to have on your presentation. So that can be a great thing to put in your kind of preparation as well. You know, if you don't have a volunteer, like let us know what one of your volunteers thinks. Or sometimes organisations shared a volunteer video. It's really important that organisations are clear about the commitment expected. We often find, particularly when organisations are posting on our online system, that they will say that the time is flexible, but often, you know, that's kind of new to a student. They don't know, you know, what does that mean, flexible? Does that mean, you know, I always come on a Thursday but it doesn't matter what time? Or does it mean that, you know, I can call 2 days before and change the time? You know, or does it mean that I literally just pop in whenever I want? You know, so the meaning of flexibility is a really important one. Being an ambassador for volunteering in general, organisations, and I think we can all forget this, that obviously we're really familiar with what volunteering is, but for students it might be the first time that they're coming to an event like this, and the reason that they've come to an online Q&A rather, you know, might be because they're not feeling that they're at the stage yet where they can just Google, you know, volunteer in my area and find the role that's right for them. So, you know, the event itself might have kind of marked them out in a way as someone who is not really sure what volunteering is and why it's important, how it will be useful to them, and you know, what all the kind of arrangements are. So that's a kind of important thing we found to remind the organisations that we're working with. And then we also had some kind of common questions which we emailed to organisations beforehand so that they would be ready for that. And I've got a slide a bit later. Maybe we can kind of share some common questions that we have. Don't know if anyone else has anything that they normally kind of make sure they tell speakers at events. So hopefully I've covered everything, which is great. At least we can all still sit down. That was one of the kind of key things that we normally told people about fairs. You know, please bring your chairs or stand in front of your table rather than behind it, because students are, you know, generally don't go across to organisations that don't seem ready for them. Oh, Kathy, yeah, that's a really good point as well. The value of volunteers to the organisations. Yeah, that's a kind of key thing to be sending across. I mean, that might be even something that you want to put in a preparation email, like a quote from a student volunteer, why you know, why they love volunteering, and kind of, you know, keep on that track of you know, I don't want to say sound, I'm nearly saying selling student volunteers, not selling, but you know, making sure we're communicating how much value volunteers in general and student volunteers are adding to the organisation, and that's something that it's great for them to talk about in their talk. And I think some of our kind of most successful and most engaging speakers that we had, you know, kind of really focused on what volunteers do for their organisations. That's a really good point, Kathy. Okay, oops. Okay. My next point is about managing the beginning of the session. Hopefully, I don't know how people felt about kind of coming in to a poll. Maybe people would like to share that in the chat. And this was an idea that I got actually from Mariana, who's also in the session. And I'll share her event, which I went to in the summer, where she did this. So at the beginning of the session, I'm sure we've all had those times where we've gone into a session, there's been like 6 or 7 people on camera, no one's saying anything, they're all kind of shuffling their papers, no one seems ready, and it's probably because someone's just said, oh, we're just waiting for a few more people to come in, but you've missed that, so you just kind of appear and you're like, oh, what's going on? So that was something that I really liked from Mariana's session, was that there was easy questions, and hopefully they were easy to answer. So straight away you're like, oh, I know what I'm doing here. Maybe even I feel like I might be a little bit behind, but I can catch up easily. It's kind of easy to work out what I'm supposed to do. I can just, you know, click on the answers to these questions. And it does mean that hopefully quite a few people have said in the chat that they really liked it and they felt kind of engaged straight away. So that might be something that you want to kind of consider using in your in online sessions. A lot of I know that Blackboard and Zoom obviously have integrated polls, so you don't necessarily, maybe sending people to Mentimeter straight away might not be the best solution, because, you know, then that can be kind of another step which is a bit more tricky to engage with. But using the poll kind of on the program that you're using can be a really good start. So the waiting room can be a really useful thing for managing the beginning of the session. We found that was very helpful, so that we could be speaking to the person who was, you know, the organisation who was going to present at the beginning, and then we could say to them, right, we're going to let everyone in now, so, you know, you can just kind of give it a couple of seconds and then start into your presentation, and then I'll introduce you, just to kind of manage that part where students are coming in. Again, these might be students that this is like the first time that they've engaged with anything to do with volunteering, and they don't really know what's going to happen. And if they come in and people don't seem ready for them, or they're still chatting to each other, or they're kind of looking blankly at their screen, then it might be a time that students just drop back out again. So managing the beginning of the session, I think we found was a really key one. Sometimes there's unavoidable things going on, like you're still trying to arrange the technology, or someone hasn't arrived yet. But another thing that we did actually at the beginning of the session was that the person who was managing the chat would just put a few questions in the chat box, like which university are you from, what are you studying, and then that would be quite a useful thing to do as well, because I don't think Teams has a poll option. John has said, we've played music at the start as people arrive, with a PowerPoint slide explaining that we're waiting for people to arrive. Yeah, that's a really good idea as well. Yeah, just to avoid that kind of moment of everyone kind of, it's quite strange when you come in and you can see lots of people, but like you don't really know what's happening, or everyone seems confused or is talking to each other. So yeah, I like the music idea. That's a good one as well. That also might be kind of quite engaging, so it's like everyone's listening to the same thing together. All right, so the next thing I've hinted at already, which is the dreaded no-show. So if some of your speakers don't turn up, so hopefully people will be able to go back to the same Menti presentation. Oops. There we go, and answer that question. So the code for this, so it's menti.com, and the code, I'll put it in the chat again, is 2822571. How do you feel about speakers or participants not showing up to your session? A couple of people have been honest and said I would panic. That's definitely kind of my feelings when we started running these events, like, oh no, like literally set this event up, I've got loads of people have come in and now they're not here. Yeah, a mixture of a few feeling like they would panic, and many people feeling like they'd be flustered but they would get it together. I'm a very planning person, so I think flustered is a key one for me. If if the thing isn't going exactly how I kind of set up all these things and I make my nice presentation and things, and then something unexpected happens and I'm like, oh no, I didn't think about this. Oh, Alexandra, that sounds horrible. My organizations didn't show up and I had 80 students waiting. Yeah, that's a big group of students. So I don't know if you felt the panic there, Alexandra, or at least I'd be very flustered at the very least by that. Yeah, so this was a key one, and I think something that kind of later colleagues remarked to me, that I seemed a lot more prepared for this because we'd had that practice over the course of the sessions. I've frozen on my screen, so I'm hoping that everyone can still hear me just when I'm talking about getting flustered. Oh, and my chat's stopped as well. I'm going to keep talking. Hopefully you can still hear me. If not, I'll just start again when I do get back in. So every session prepare by having the website of the organisation up, and just going through the website and showing the students how to find the volunteering roles on the website, how to find a video about what the volunteering was all about, how to make your application. Again, remembering that, you know, students might be at this session because they don't really know what volunteering is about. They don't feel ready to do that search. So I think on maybe not the full session. So that's something that we kind of made sure after a while that we were prepared for. And in terms of students not showing up, we would generally have the organisation kind of prepped to use the time to make a video, and kind of at least have that kind of positive outcome that could come from it. And a kind of small amount of students, we would have the organisation kind of ready to say, well, at least we can, you know, we can use this time to make a useful video which is aimed at student volunteers. Just opening my Teams. Hopefully, Charlotte, would you be able to send me a message in Teams and let me know if you can still hear me on Zoom? Oh, my computer's crashed.
Hey, can you hear me, Frances?
I can, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's just been like a few breaks as you were talking, so your image is frozen, and at least for my part, I don't know if it's everyone else as well. There were parts where you were talking and then we lost you completely, but it's, yeah, it keeps coming, you know, back.
Keeps coming in and out. Oh, sorry about that. My Zoom has frozen for me.
Is it wondering if you get out and come back?
Yeah, would that, is that all right? I think I'll do that. Sorry, everyone.
You see, I wish I had prepared some kind of entertainment now.
Play us some music, Mariana.
Yeah, like just a little bit of a dance. I don't, see, your screen isn't hasn't frozen now. Just your image. It's still frozen.
Oh. I'm trying to. Oh no.
And right? I think we've lost your voice again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, maybe just.
Now I've got everything in the wrong place. Oh no, my whole computer's crashed.
Sorry guys, I have like building work just outside my house as well. I don't know if any of you can hear it. I can see your screen again. You do?
Hi, sorry. I'm having trouble getting out of Zoom to get back in.
Right, okay. Let me try to see if I can share your slides instead. See if I have them here. Can you still hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry, guys. I kind of muted myself just because there's literally like building works outside. I mean, honestly, in a session about online events, there's always something like this that happens, which is just crazy. Let me see if I can share. If I can share the slides. What?
I think. Am I back? Hopefully, I'm back.
You're back.
I'm back. Woohoo!
Your image is back, your sound is back, and your screen is back as far as I can see it.
Thanks.
And if everyone can still see, if everyone can, actually, guys, if you look in the bottom of your Zoom window, there's a little thing that says reactions. Can I please have your most favorite reaction to say if you can see Francis' screen or not? Favorite one. I love seeing like the favorite ones. I love the copper as well. I do like the little thing with like the little smiley with the tears though. It's the best. Just represents my daily life, really. Amazing, thank you. Sorry, are you okay to continue to film?
Yeah. So thanks everyone. It was so funny that happened like right at the time where I was talking about how I get flustered if things don't go to plan. It's like, here's an example of that happening to me. So I don't know how much of what I was saying people could hear. I was just saying that basically that we found it useful to have as a backup someone who is prepared to go through the organisation's website, at least maybe find a quote from a volunteer and just show students, you know, this is how you go through the website, this is where their volunteering roles are, click here to make an application, here's a video about it, just giving students that kind of warm introduction to volunteering, because again, they might be, you know, they might be kind of finding out about what volunteering is for the first time. Thanks, Kathy, saying these things make the presentation memorable. And if you don't have the student attendees that you expected, you know, this might be something that you'd like to prepare your speakers for. But if they've put that time aside, you can present it in the positive way of, well, look, we can use this time to help you make a video which we can share with student volunteers in the future. So luckily didn't happen to us, but we did have a couple of times where there weren't that many students or not that many people had signed up, and that was something you can kind of be ready for, rather than also the organisation being disappointed or flustered by there not being students there. And when you make the video, you can make it so that, you know, the chat isn't there, or you don't necessarily identify everyone, so it even seems like the students in there, and you can have questions ready that you know students usually ask, and the you know, the participant or the person that's running the chat can just ask those questions. So it can be really you know, a useful time. And in this time where we're all so busy with online events, you know, that can be something that it could be a kind of useful use of time. Speaking of use of time, I know we are nearing 11:50 now, so I won't be offended if people, you know, have set aside that amount of time and need to leave. I've got a few more things to talk about, so hopefully people will be able to stay. The next thing is questions. So this was something that we could be ready with and tended to be ready with. Maybe people can put in the chat if there are kind of common questions at your institution. And this was something that we knew that often, you know, students and well, not just students, everyone, you know, it's hard to be the first person to ask a question. So it was useful to kind of be ready with some questions which we know that students normally ask, which we could ask on their behalf. I'm trying to be clever and put in a text box so I can write as we go along, but that might be a bit too much. So the common questions that we almost always get are, I'm an international student, can I do this? Do I need this particular skill or this particular qualification? I'm really interested in this organisation, but that role's not right for me. What can I do? Or can I email you and ask about other things or offer other skills? Those are the kind of main things that we found that students often want to know. So we would quite often just put that in the chat box so someone could see that a question had already been asked, and also, you know, it makes the organisation feel that people are engaged. Alexandra said, yeah, we get asked about public transport a lot. Yeah, that's a really key one as well. How do I get to your organisation? Am I allowed to? You know, obviously at the moment, you know, if the person hasn't talked about it in their presentation already, you know, kind of COVID safety agreements and how things are going ahead. So that's something that you know, kind of often comes up. I'm going to move on from this a bit quicker than I normally would, just because we're a little bit behind. But if anyone else thinks of any other useful questions, I can always add them to the slides later. Things that often come up, and then you can be ready with and you know, if you're making a video with no students in, you can have those questions available. So feedback and follow-up, taking attendance, it works really differently on different platforms, and whether you've had a registration. For us, we often find that the people that sign up don't come, and people come that didn't sign up. So, you know, that's kind of important to be able to have a list of people who've registered and people who've actually attended. Another question that we get all the time is, are you going to send out the slides? Is the recording available? Where will it be? So to have that kind of planned beforehand, so you have that answer, is really helpful. Following up with the speakers was really key as well. That was something that we kind of scheduled in and split out between the different organisations, the different institutions who ran these sessions. You know, to say, and maybe a month later, how's your recruitment going? You know, have you checked your volunteer advertisement on our platforms? Are you getting the volunteers that you're expecting? And that, you know, can kind of help that dialogue with the organisations as well. And also having these online sessions is a really good opportunity for getting immediate feedback. So as we all know, emailing out a feedback form to 100 people after a session, well, I would say we'll probably get maybe 1 or 2 people fill it in. It's really, really difficult to do that. And as much as I love getting feedback, I often don't fill in feedback forms because I think, oh, I need to put aside time for that. I just don't get to it. You know, I've already given this much time to the event and things. So using polls and Mentimeter can be really useful for, you know, just getting that immediate feedback. And maybe it's not as detailed as you might have had, you know, with a full form, but if more people fill it out, you know, I would say that hopefully it's more useful. So in that vein, I'm going to ask people to go back to the Menti again, and hopefully I can open it. Go to the next question, just for some feedback on this session. How you feel, whether you feel any differently after this session about online events. I loved how it like jumped up to 5 then. That was great. Just for a second. Yeah, so whether you feel about the same, or hopefully there's been something that's made you think, yeah, I have thought about those things, or oh, I do know what's on my list to think about now. So that's great. 3.9, I'm very happy with that. That's great. I'm glad that everyone's found it useful. I've got if there's anything, you know, if there's any one thing that you would take away from this session, that, you know, you can just put in one word to kind of like remind yourself, or something that that you might do differently or plan for. Plan for the unexpected. I need to learn that lesson myself. Thought I was an expert. Yeah, opportunity if no show. Great. Menti. Yeah, I I really recommend Menti. They've got some great videos on YouTube to kind of explain how to use it in the first place. But I found it quite quite user friendly right from the beginning. And there's lots of different, you know, it can make these like nice like images and you know, present the results really nicely. And I think it's just like quite fun to press the buttons. Yeah, great, welcome activity. Yeah, excellent, thanks. And then my my final thing, I'm going to move the Menti on, but it will go to just it's not going to be a page like this. It's actually a very short feedback form that maybe you can fill in kind of after the session if you've got like a couple of minutes. And then the only thing I've got to say right at the end, so I'm going to go back to my slides, but hopefully you'll have time to fill in that little form on Menti. It's just more information and to remind you about Student Volunteering Week, which hopefully everyone is really excited for. I know Mariana is. So there's lots of resources from the Student Volunteering Network. So there's a blog version of this session, which I wrote if you kind of want that all just written down. There's on the Student Volunteering Network resources page, there's an event called Let's Get Online, which has a photo of Mariana, which hopefully people will recognise. And that's where I got a lot of ideas about kind of running events right at the beginning in the summer. So that's a really useful one to watch, kind of more about like the real content of what you do and how to make that engaging. So I find that really useful. There's links to all the information and the resources for Student Volunteering Week, and a content call out if anyone has quotes from organisations or students that you would like to be put in the Student Volunteering Network graphics and put on the Student Volunteering Week social media and everything. Will kind of make it all pretty and post it for you if you fill it in on that short Google form. And you can also share that with students and organizations, and we'll like make it all nice for you, and you can just repost it or retweet it. So hopefully that will make things easier. Sorry, I feel like I was really rushing towards the end there. If anyone's got any questions, do feel free to put them in the chat, or oh yeah, that's a good point. I'll put these links in the chat. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to put in the chat. Oh, that Let's Get Online one isn't working, but we will email these slides out, and the links will go on the Student Volunteering Network site. The link to Mariana's event isn't coming up, but it's on the resources page, which you can find through those other links. Oh yeah, if anyone was not registered for this event, and or you're not sure whether you were, or just in case, generally in case of any technical issues, if you'd like to put your email address in the chat, and then we can make sure we have emailed you all the information from this session. Thanks everyone so much for your contributions and putting things in the chat, and for your time. I know it's really busy at the moment, so it's just really nice to have people here. Yeah, thank you everyone, and I'm excited for Student Volunteering Week and to celebrate all your students' successes. And yours as well. I share them. I think we can't get enough celebration this year. I'm celebrating like all kinds of world events this year. It's just like anything I can find.
Yeah, I think anything at this point, just like we'll celebrate anything.
Yes, National Toast Day. Yeah,
Toast Day. Now we celebrate. It's sunny. We celebrate. Yeah. There's coffee. We'll celebrate.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks everyone so much, and we'll certainly definitely email you if you put your email address in the chat, and hopefully we'll have the list available, and we'll send this to everyone. We will put the recording eventually on the Student Volunteering Network page as well, so you'll be able to find it there, along with Mariana's session, which is I really recommend watching it as well. Great. Bye, Kathy. Thanks for coming. Oh, everyone suddenly went. That's good, because I was running out of things to say.
Oh yeah. We not only need to, so we found the unofficial start. I feel like we need to find something for the unofficial end.
Yeah.
It might be a music trick kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just like music on and just let everyone just slowly drift away.
It's a good idea, because you don't want to be like, okay, everyone go.
Yeah.